White Tower was constructed under the orders of William the Conqueror. Never lived to see it finished. We think it's one of 3 towers that was built round the city of London. It was here as a political statement. The Normans had arrived. Most of the local Saxons would have been living in 1-storey, possibly wattle and daub houses round about. And here was this apparently at least 2 or 3-storey high stone building. It was incredibly impressive. Well, it's the 13th century, beginning of the 14th century, that the site is as we know it today. And the only changes after that are really with the wharf. And it has then gone on to be both incredibly symbolic about power, very much woven into the history of England and Britain.
So what is in store for the time tourist who visits the White Tower today?
You go in today and you see the remains of what was the Tower Arsenal, or the Tower Armouries as it's usually known. The Tower, as well as being a royal palace, also kept all of the things from the early medieval period that a medieval monarch would need to be king.
This department through time grew to become the Board of Ordnance.
And they are the people who equip the British Army, once they get a standing army in the 17th century, right up to the mid-19th century, so through the Napoleonic Wars. As a result, we end up with a lot of stores here. We end up with all of the regulation and pre-regulation pattern weapons here in store. And for the 19th century, you have weapons as wallpaper. Henry's armours are probably the most spectacular. They were consciously gathered together after his death. And of course, with an armour, what you do is see the whole person. You see the shape of the outer man. So for the 2 armours that we've got on display, you can see the young king coming to the throne in his late adolescence, early 20s. He's sporting, he's quite fit. Then opposite, you see the 1540 armour, where Henry is coming towards the end of his life. It's 7 years before his death. He's a lot fatter. And you can't miss how much weight the poor man's put on. He's a much more solid person by that stage. So by seeing the 2 armours, you can actually see what Henry would have looked like. With the visors down, all you're lacking is the animation of a body within it.
But back to the White Tower's roots, you can find the awe-inspiring Norman-built St. John's Chapel tucked away amongst all those weapon stores and armour.
As well as being a royal chapel, it is where traditionally the Knights of the Bath were created. They are the attendants of the monarch at the coronation. And up till Charles II, the monarch would have left from the chapel there and from the Tower of London to travel to Westminster for the actual ceremony.